So welcome under the auspices of the Olive Conservation Advisory Council. I'm Dan White and I'm a member of the Olive Conservation Advisory Council. And we're here tonight to talk about this potential program called Community Choice Aggregation. What it is a group electricity buying group where the members of a town, if we choose to sign up for it, will have access to both sustainable energy and energy at a steady and hopefully competitive price compared to central. So Peggy Kurtz, who's a member of the Jewel Community Power Organization, will explain the program. And can they ask questions during the presentation? Or should
I think hold them till the end. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Terrific. So welcome, and let's all listen.
Okay.
And learn.
So thank you very much. Thank you for coming out. Does everybody see okay if I sit? Just that way I can.
But
Okay.
why don't you I'll forward the slides for you. You stand, it's better. It's a big room.
It's just that I'm also presenting online at the same
okay,
time.
then
So I feel like, although maybe actually once I start sharing the screen, it doesn't really matter as much.
Okay.
Okay, so I will stand up. Okay, why don't I start sharing the screen, which hopefully.
Are there people joining online?
Yes, there are. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, good evening. Thank you. Is this loud enough? Can everybody hear me? Okay. Good evening. All right.
I have a hearing aid constellation over here too.
Microphone would be good if you speak loudly.
Okay, I'll do my best. Okay, just remind me or go like this if you need to remind me to speak louder. So good evening. Thank you so much for coming out this evening. My name is Peggy Kurtz. Before we begin, I want to mention that we are recording this meeting, but we've set the settings so that those who are online should not be visible in the recording. Of course, if you're here in the audience, you will not be visible. I'm here today to explain the Hudson Valley Community Power Program, a clean energy program that the town of Olive is exploring. I'm the community coordinator for Jewel Community Power, for Jewel Community Power, and Jewel Community Power is a division of Jewel Assets. Jewel Assets is the program administrator for the program. The Hudson Valley Community Power Program is a community-based program that makes renewable electricity available at competitive rates. The program currently includes 12 municipalities in the Hudson Valley. Okay.
Please.
Okay. So the town is currently exploring this program. I want to emphasize that. They're exploring this program. They're considering participation. And if the town decides to participate, the program would launch in the summer of 2025. So, okay, sorry, let me just back up a second. Okay, so this is a formal statement, and I'll explain everything in more detail as I go forward. The town of Olive is exploring the option to participate in an upcoming bid for an electricity supply contract through the Hudson Valley Community Power Program. This program would provide eligible residents and small businesses with the benefits of renewable electricity supply at competitive rates. I'll be explaining. I know it's not easy to. So this is just an overview of the presentation this evening. I'll be explaining the type of program, what's called a Community Choice Aggregation Program, or CCA for short. I'll obviously go over the benefits, the role of the utility, and your bill, the enrollment process, and some other logistics, and then I'll open it up for questions. So the aim of the program is to make it easier for more people to access renewable electricity supply at competitive rates. When we talk about renewable electricity, we're talking about electricity that is generated by hydropower from dams or from wind power for the purposes of this evening. And some of the benefits, this again, quick overview, are clean, renewable electricity, competitive rates, strong consumer protection, and more choice for consumers. None of your current choices go away for electricity supply. In fact, you will have additional choices. So this program, the Hudson Valley Community Power Program, is what's called the Community Choice Aggregation Program. As I said, you'll hear me referring to it as CCA for short. Essentially, with CCA programs, municipalities create a large buying group through which residents and small businesses may purchase their electricity supply. These programs enable municipalities to leverage the buying power of that large group, usually thousands or tens of thousands of households and businesses, to negotiate competitive rates for eligible residents and small businesses. If you move into the town of Olive today, Central Hudson will automatically be your electricity supply provider by default. This program shifts the choice of default supplier to the town level so that your elected officials can make the choice that's right for your community. Your town can select renewable electricity as the default electricity supply and do so at a competitive rate through that large buying group. CCA programs were authorized by the Public Service Commission, which regulates these programs today in 2016. As I mentioned, these programs are overseen and regulated today by the commission. So in 2019, in response to climate change, New York State passed groundbreaking climate legislation, which mandates an unprecedented transformation of the state's electric grid. The electric grid must be powered 70% by renewable electricity by 2030. So at this point, it's only 5 years away. And it must be 100% carbon-free by 2040. Without local action, the state cannot meet these goals, which will ultimately help to protect our communities and our own families. The program we're discussing today helps communities take a major step in the direction of meeting these goals for renewable electricity. In fact, state regulators recognize CCA programs with renewable electricity as the default, as one of the most powerful climate actions a community can take. CCA is a growing movement across the country and in New York State. Municipalities have been participating in the Hudson Valley Community Power Program since 2019, and multiple municipalities are hoping to begin their fourth CCA contract through that program this summer. Since the first contract in 2019, Hudson Valley Community Power has avoided 90,266 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalents through the purchase of New York State renewable electricity. So that's a significant achievement.
That's spread over the whole state.
No, that's just through the the municipalities in the Hudson Valley Community Power Program. So let's talk about how this actually, sorry, can you hear me well enough? Yep.
Louder.
Okay. Let's talk about it. Thank you. Let's talk about how this actually works for consumers. Central Hudson remains as your utility. In New York State, the utility no longer generates the electricity. The utility essentially has become the middleman in the middle of this screen, delivering the electricity to the consumer on the right-hand side. What changes with CCA is the source of the supply all the way to the left on the screen. Instead of the utility purchasing electricity for you from power plants, this electricity is supplied through the CCA program with the option for renewable electricity. With CCA, just to kind of reinforce that, with CCA, Central Hudson continues to deliver the electricity, repair and maintain lines, and bill customers. They are still the ones to call in the event of power outages, which should be no more frequent than before. You can see the same distinction between supply and delivery on your electric bill. So I'm going to show you how your electricity bill would look if the town of Olive decides to participate, and if you decide to participate. So this is page 2 of a Central Hudson bill. Within the electricity portion of your bill, there are 2 subsections. At the top in the, what I've sort of dropped in a green box around one section and a red box around another section. On the top in the green box that I dropped in, is the delivery. These are the delivery charges. And this portion does not change because Central Hudson continues to deliver your electricity. What does change is the supply portion of your bill if you participate. And that is in the red box at the bottom of page 2. And you'll see, you can see it, my cursor is pointing to Direct Energy. It says your electricity supplier is Direct Energy. Direct Energy was the supplier. This is for a bill for a participant in a past round of the program. And Direct Energy was chosen in a bidding process. And this is where you will see the name of the new supplier. Again, if the municipality decides to move forward with the program, and if you decide to, okay. If the town decides to move forward with the process, and if you as an individual household decide to participate in the program, that's where you will see the name of the new supplier. Once again, the supplier will be chosen in a bidding process. A little further,
Chosen by Jewel, right?
I'm sorry.
Chosen by Jewel,
No, will be, Jewel is the negotiator,
right,
but the municipalities,
right. So
by
you
consensus,
shop all
will-
the suppliers and make
yes,
recommendations.
correct.
and then
We
the
make
town board-
recommendations to the town. And then the towns, there's a consensus process. It seems to be pretty clear so far from what I can see. Okay, so a little bit lower down in that box, you will see costs for electricity in the supply section. You will see costs for electricity supply. And there you see electricity supply charge. And for this particular household, for that billing period, it was, their usage was 761 kilowatt hours at 6.361 cents per kilowatt hour. That was the rate at that, in this past program at that time. And the total came to, when you multiply those two, the number of kilowatt hours times the rate, you come up with the total electricity supply charges, which for this household were $48.41. Both the delivery charges, which go to the utility, and the supply charges as part of the CCA program are calculated based on how much electricity you use, and that's measured in kilowatt hours.
What time of the year was this?
I don't see that on this. Oh, it says April 14th,
Thank you.
April 22nd.
That was the structure that you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explain how to look at your bill, really. I'm just trying to, because we know that electric bills are confusing. Of course, it's blown up here. You're going to see it all in much smaller print, but at least you'll know what to look for. This is, as you're saying, the structure of your bill. But this was in a past program. So, but it happened that this was in the
I
spring.
mean, none of us see an electricity bill of only $48. So is it for a house that's 10 by 10?
That is for the supply rate. I just want to point out, that's for the supply rate. That's the total electricity supply charges. If you look at the top of the bill, where it says total electricity delivery charges, it's 87.
They get you, because Central Hudson can charge whatever they want for delivery, and it's usually quite high. So you can save on that, and who's to control how much the delivery costs cost?
Only the Public Service Commission.
They have to get through the.
Yeah,
They're the ones that allow or disallow rate increases by Central Hudson.
that's
I
good.
think
Okay. Yeah.
the public service.
Well, they do have hearings when the rate cases come up, but. Yeah, but yes, I'm glad that that you brought up that issue. So the total electricity supply charges are $48.41. The total electricity delivery charges for this household for that month were $87.08. So without editorial comment on my part, just you can see that, yeah, no, the total for the household was not.
That would be great.
I'm sorry.
That'd be $86. Well, no, the total,
So let me move on.
86 for delivery?
Yeah.
For this
It doesn't matter, she's just explaining the structure. of the-
Correct, correct. So the comment from the audience was, I'm sorry, I should be repeating things for the people online. The comment from the audience was that what I'm doing here is I'm just showing you the structure of the bill to try to help people understand that distinction between delivery and supply. That's really what this slide is about, and so that you understand your electricity bill. Okay, so now let's talk about the enrollment process. Okay, so most Central Hudson customers are eligible to participate. CCA programs are opt-out programs. That means that those who are eligible are automatically enrolled in the program, but can opt out with no fees at any time. And I just see for people taking pictures or writing down, the presentation will be posted online. Okay, so
On the town website?
yeah, I can, no, I would think so, but it will be on the Hudson Valley Community Power program website, and I forgot to ask about that, but I will. Whether I can't see a problem with doing that. So you don't have to feel like you've got to write things down if you don't want to.
Said is that
Yeah,
if the community
Mhm.
accepts this program,
correct,
individuals can opt out.
correct. That's exactly what I'm gonna explain, that whole process right now.
That's
So
a
you'll
good
see.
summary, thank you.
It is, yeah, so the question was, can people opt out, can the individual household or small business opt out? Yes,
For years, we've had the option of getting our energy. Supply, not the delivery, but the supply from other vendors, which presumably were mostly renewable energy. How is this different from that?
so let's,
And why does the town need to be in the middle of it?
so
We've
let's,
been able to do it
if you
anyway.
don't mind, let's hold off on that question until the Q&A. It's a good question, though. Okay. So I want to sort of stay with the thread of thought for a few minutes of the opt-out process, so I can explain it to people. So I mentioned that CCA programs are opt-out programs. That means that those who are eligible are automatically enrolled in the program, but can opt out with no fees at any time.
Fee to opt in, if there's no.
There's
fee to
no
opt out,
fees. You can opt in, you can opt out, you can do whatever you want. You can change within the program, and there are no fees for that at any time. So these are I mentioned that most Central Hudson customers are eligible to participate, and that includes both residents, homeowners, and renters that pay their own Central Hudson bill. They have their own Central Hudson accounts, and small businesses. But there are some categories of Central Hudson customers who will not receive that initial mailing because they are not eligible. So these are what you see on the screen. These are the categories of Central Hudson customers who are considered not eligible and who will therefore not get the mailing. So the first is customers who have already contracted with they're in a contract with a third-party electricity supplier or ESCO or energy service company, such as
That's
this
what
gentleman
Sarah
was
that's
just,
what Sarah was referring to, right?
yeah, I'll explain the difference in a few minutes, okay? So those customers will not receive the mailing because they're considered not eligible. Customers with a block on their account. These are customers who have asked the utility to ensure that they're not, to place a block on their account, to ensure that they're not enrolled in supply from third-party suppliers. HEAP recipients or Home Energy Assistance Program participants. not considered eligible. Customers on time of use accounts also considered not eligible and will not receive the mailing. Large commercial customers with what's called demand accounts, so also not eligible. So we can talk about any or all of these accounts in the Q&A if it applies to any of you and if you're interested in participating in the program. So I mentioned that eligible customers will receive a mailing with information about the program in advance of the program launching. And that mailing, you eligible customers will be automatically enrolled in the default option unless they opt out before the program begins. That mailing will give you 3 easy ways to opt out. First is with a postage paid reply card that's going to be in that envelope. It's actually a reply card with a postage paid envelope in that packet that you're going to get. You can also call the helpline. You can, which I'll give you in a few minutes. You can also unenroll yourself or enroll yourself through the online form enrollment.
From Central Hudson or CCA?
Who is the mailing going to come from? The mailing will come from the town. Okay, it will say Town of Olive on the outside of the envelope, and you'll see the town logo. All of this, of course, if the town decides to participate in the program. You can also change your choice within the program by doing number 2 or 3, calling the helpline or using the online form. All of this is going to be repeated in the mailing that you get. For example, your municipality may choose to offer a couple of different renewable electricity supply options. So you can change one of them will be the default, but you can change within the program through calling the helpline or changing on the form.
Changing from what to what?
Okay, so trying to think.
Renewable, changing to conventional?
So what I'm really referring to, most likely, what would happen is that there are 2 renewable options. One of them is for what's called 50% renewable New York State renewable, and the other one is for 100% New York State. The question was, what would you be changing within? What option within the program? I'm just repeating for people online. So I'm going to explain that more when I'll circle back to that when I finish. So I can just continue with the process, the enrollment process. Okay, so let's talk now about the timeline. If the town of Olive decides to accept an electricity supply bid through the program, there will be another set of outreach. There will be another period of outreach, including meetings. At that time, we'll know the program rate that the town agree. Yes, at the time that we do that next round of outreach, we will know the program rates.
Which would include knowing the rates.
Yes, and the term of the program, meaning the length of the contract with the town. So it might be a year, for example, or 18 months, something like that. We'll know that. And then a mailing goes out to all eligible households and small businesses. That packet will include the program rates, the benefits, the terms, the conditions, frequently asked questions, information about more info sessions. It will also include, as I mentioned, information about how to opt out, including the reply card to opt out if that is your preference. That will be followed by a 30-day initial opt-out period, and we'll have another round of events during that opt-out period. So what's the difference between that opt-out, because I've just said earlier that you can opt out at any time with no exit fee. So what's the difference between this initial 30-day period and opting out later on? The difference between the initial opt-out period and opting out once the program begins is that once the 30-day period is over, if you have not opted out, you will automatically be moved into the program. If you opt out during the opt-out period, you will not be enrolled in the program. If you opt out after the 30-day period, it will take 1 or 2 billing cycles to move you out of the program, to leave the program, and return to supply from Central Hudson. After the 30-day opt-out period, the program will launch, And then on your next bill after the launch date, if you've decided to participate, you should see the name of the new supplier on the supply portion of the bill, which I showed you a few slides ago, and the new electricity supply rate. Okay. So now I'm going to go quickly through some frequently asked questions, and then I'm glad to open it up to you. So does this program replace your utility company? No, I'm sorry for the repetition, but
Speak loudly and clearly.
Okay.
You're motivated.
okay, I will speak louder. Okay.
If you're a presenter, you have to learn to do that.
Okay, so does the program replace your utility company? No, you continue to pay your utility bill, your Central Hudson bill, and Central Hudson remains responsible for delivery and maintenance of the electric grid and billing. Does this impact the reliability of your electricity? No, Central Hudson continues to deliver your electricity and provides the same service whether you participate in the program or not. Will this program save you money? Will the program save you money? Savings are not guaranteed. When people ask us, will this program save me money? What they're really asking for is a comparison with utility rates. But utility rates change from month to month, and nobody knows, they're not posted ahead of time. Nobody knows what the utility rates will be ahead of time, so we can't make that comparison. Okay. Can you participate if you have your own solar panels or if you participate in community solar and community hydropower? Yes, even if you use solar power or participate in community solar or hydropower, you are still required to have a supplier on your utility bill to cover any electricity which is not provided by your solar or by the hydropower. What happens when the program ends? When the contract ends, your municipality may choose to renew participation in the program. If not, you will automatically switch back to Central Hudson, selecting your supply on your behalf. Okay, I like to end with the benefits. After all of those logistics, there's the opportunity for at least 50% renewable electricity supply, competitive rates, strong consumer protection. There's no individual contracts for consumers and no exit fees at any time. This is our contact information, which I'll read off for those who are online, might be on a phone. You can always call the helpline Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and the helpline continues throughout the life of the program. And the number is 845-859-9099. Again, 845-859-9099. You can call Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You can also call on the weekend or in the evening, leave a message, and we'll call you back. We do not put people on hold. Okay, just leave a message and we'll call you back. There's an email, info@hudsonvalleycommunitypower.com. And there's information on the website already, hudsonvalleycommunitypower.com. So now I'm going to, okay, maybe I won't stop sharing. Yes, now I'm ready for questions. Okay, this gentleman had some questions earlier. Okay.
Several decades, we've had something called net metering, where you have to have a wind turbine or a solar panel or rarely a hydro plant on your property. The energy that you use comes preferentially from whatever's happening on your property at the moment, but if there's an excess at that moment, it goes reversing the meter.
Okay.
And the utility company, it's held as a equal value credit.
Mm-hmm.
So does CCA accommodate the net metering principle? Will they actually hold your energy on credit if you have a surplus in a month?
So this covers whatever electricity is not provided by your solar. So this, and the rate will be what the rate is in the program. Yeah.
So at the end of the month, you've
Yes.
got 100 kilowatt hours that you've consumed that you did not produce. and it was not loaned to the utility as a credit during that month. So you end up just paying for that 100 kilowatt.
Right. So the question for those who are online was, how does this interact with if you have solar or if you have either community solar, community hydropower, or solar on your own property or wind on your own property? And the answer was, as I showed, I can back up if you want, that this covers whatever is not covered by the energy from your solar. And the rate will just be what it is. It's the rate in the program.
Because another aspect of net
Yeah.
metering is this, if you're offsetting energy that you would otherwise be buying from the utility company, if that 100 kilowatt hours is left over at the end of the month, that also affects your delivery charge, which is the
So
2/3
this
at the
has-
top of the bill. That is also reduced
Mhm.
by stuff that's produced on site,
Okay,
whereas
So-
you're only offsetting
this
the-
only pertains to the
the
supply
supply.
portion of your bill. Yes, the question was, comment was that the delivery from your solar panels also helps to offset some of your delivery costs from Central Hudson. This has nothing to do with your delivery costs. That's not affected. Okay, yes?
I have a number of questions. Number one, how long has Jewel been in existence? Is it a profit or nonprofit?
It is a for-profit, and I'm trying to think how Jewel. I'm trying to think. It's sometime in the mid-2000s. I'm thinking,
So it's a for-profit,
yeah.
right? And you say that electricity.
I'm sorry.
so
The
how-
question,
how does Jewel-
the question was just how is Jewel for profit or not for profit? It is for profit.
and
Yeah.
how do they get compensated?
How do they get compensated? That's a good question. So Jewel is not being paid anything currently. It's only if the town does sign a contract. If the town signs a contract, it's paid through a rate that's assessed per kilowatt hour. So it depends on the usage of that particular household or small business. My understanding is that on average, it comes to about $1.30 per household per month. That's all baked into the rate. That's not, you're not going to see any additional charges from Jewel. The rate is what the rate is. We're paid by the supplier, and it's the same fee, whichever supplier. Let me just finish with her questions. and then-
Yeah, let's
Ms.
go back.
Jordan. Yeah, I'm trying to, yes, go ahead. Did you have another question?
Yes.
Okay.
You were saying that, the rates of electricity change. Now, some of us are part of a fuel buying co-op for other, for oil and gas and stuff.
Mhm.
And we say there's definite difference of price from the co-op price to just a retail price if you're buying it on your own. How will that, you're saying, well, it depends on the price and we go by the price. By buying aggregate, by the town buying, how much
Mhm.
will the town save? Will individuals save by buying? Is it a cooperative price? And will it be less than the ongoing price of electricity?
So that's a question that we get asked. The question was, how much will you save? Is it like a fuel buyer's co-op? So the rate is guaranteed, but the savings we cannot guarantee savings. So the problem is utility rates fluctuate from month to month. And we don't know, for example, I don't know, I went online this morning. I couldn't see the rate for February. I believe the rate that I was seeing posted was still for January. So they're not posted. There isn't any way for us to compare because we don't know what the rates are going to be in the future. We can only look back, but we can't guarantee savings.
It's a composite of what the utilities are paying on an instantaneous basis any time of day. They pay a different rate any time of day because it depends on where they're buying the energy from. So they don't know until the end of the month.
Well, yeah, I can't speak for how the utility rates are, how they buy their energy. But what you will get in the program, I mean, what we can guarantee is you'll get whatever the default is, whether it's 50% or 100% renewable electricity, and you will get a stable rate. Your rate will be stable. It's not going to go up and down month by month.
I quite understand. Our rate won't go up and down, but electricity rates go up and down. You're saying you have to watch what happens to that. So I'm not quite clear on will the town and individuals actually save money? This gentleman said he gets, and I think I get too, part, my, electricity, I signed up for renewables, comes from community solar panels, and Central Hudson pays for delivery. But Jewel, what are the savings, what are the benefits?
So.
Can I take a stab at
Sure, of
this?
course, yeah.
So Jewel will relay to the town a certain rate for the electricity. And that will be either very similar to what other suppliers would have, or a little higher or a little lower. If the town takes it, then it will lock in that price. And then if electricity prices through Central Hudson go up, as they might, if fuel prices go up or other things, you will stay at that price. Very unlikely that Central Hudson will go down. So it will be a question of the town board analyzing whether the rate that's offered is beneficial because it's stable and either the same as or slightly higher than. Slightly higher than is possible because this is renewable energy, and I don't have a community aggregate process, but I get solar through a community site that I opt into. I pay a little bit more, but it's solar and it's stable.
It's stable month to month, because I think Peggy said that it varies month to month.
No, no,
For the
the
life of the
utility,
contracts.
the utility,
Year and a half
So
contract.
it's in the last year, the utility rate that I was looking at, well, we're all talking, varied between 4.5 cents a kilowatt hour and 12 cents a kilowatt hour. It's highest when you're using the most.
Mhm.
So. the cost
Correct.
Is like a lot more. So month to month, and you don't know until you open your bill what it was for the stuff you already used, which I always found a problem. So this way, you know that whatever rate it was, it's the same for the rest of the year. The only thing that would change is how many kilowatts you use.
So then it is like the fuel buying co-op, you opt in, that's what I'm trying, that's the question. If you opt in, do we actually save money, or, cause you were
It depends
saying,
on what the actual rates
it go
end up
up and
being.
down. It can go up, and it will only go up. And we have no control, or you all don't have control over delivery costs anyhow.
we don't have any, we don't have,
Stay steady, and you're also, unless they're not asking for another one for a few more months, another
Few more
raise.
months.
They don't get to just set it. The New York government has to approve every increase they ask for. So it takes a
okay,
month
so
for
I
the
just,
cost.
yeah,
Yeah, on the delivery side.
Have they asked?
Yes, of course they have. They just
Okay.
got one recently, and they already asked for
Okay.
another one.
He wants to summarize.
yeah, I just, yeah.
The last one.
So I know that people online probably can't hear what's being said in the back of the room, so I'm just trying to remember. So the questions have been, and the comments have been about the utility rates. And so the utility rates will go up and down. That's a sure thing. This rate, once it's locked in, the supplier is locked into that rate and it will continue. The question, I do also want to distinguish for a minute between community solar and this program, because they are somewhat different, and this is a source of some confusion very often. Okay, so these programs, they don't conflict with each other, and they don't overlap, and they don't duplicate each other. I always say it's like eating fruits and vegetables, you know, they're both good, but they're different, okay? So the renewable electricity through this program can help to reduce your carbon footprint. I know this is a little confusing, but on the other hand, the community solar or community hydropower helps to support the development of new renewable projects that have to get certain number of subscribers before they can launch. You get the benefit through the community solar or the community hydropower of solar or hydro credits, and that's due to a partial state subsidy for these programs, part of which gets passed along to consumers. So that's stable. It doesn't change the rate for community solar. It's like getting a discount. You go into the store to buy a jacket, the basic rate was $100, and you're getting a 10% discount off that with a community solar, okay? One of them applies financial credits to your account. And the other replaces, this program replaces the source of your electricity supply. So there is a real difference. It reduces your carbon footprint, the carbon footprint of your household. The other one helps to support the development of new renewable energy projects. Both of them are quite important. And if you want to double down on your support for renewable energy, you can do both, which is what we do in my household, in our household. Yeah. Okay, this gentleman had his hand up for a while.
You started off saying that it was hydro and wind power. You didn't mention solar, or is that it's all renewable?
So for this program, it will be either hydropower or wind power, mostly majority hydropower. I want to explain the difference between 50% and 100%, because that is also, okay, so here, I'm
My
gonna,
other question is, the only thing I see is Jewel, they're the only ones that are guaranteed anything through the town, because the town is mandating that you're gonna be on it unless you opt out. So one day, if I'm not following all the junk mail that comes into my mailbox, one day my bill is gonna say, whatever it says, Jewel or whatever, or
Mhm.
whatever they call it, is gonna say that one day, then I have to opt out of it. So you're guaranteed, that's the only reason I can see why the town is gonna mandate it, so you get your money for doing the work. So you have
We
to opt
don't
out.
get nothing from them getting money or nothing.
I know you don't, I know the town doesn't get anything, but why is the town even doing it? Everybody here has some other type of, solar program, or is buying into another solar program.
so the question is why do this, okay? So I guess the question, as I just explained to you, the community solar, I just want to, so the comment from the audience was that you're mandated that the town would be mandating you to participate in the program, which is incorrect. You have all the same choices as before. What does change is that the default source would be through this program. But keep in mind that the default source currently was chosen for you by the state, by the Public Service
So it's just
Commission.
another layer of bureaucracy. So essentially the town is saying you're in unless you opt out. So again, it's another layer.
But you're given more choices. So if you move in.
Not initially, I'm saying initially, you're gonna be getting mailers.
Mhm.
If you don't pay attention to those mailers or cards, you're in.
That's correct. You do have to, the question was, you have to pay attention to your mail. Hopefully, you're gonna be aware and people will be aware that this is coming, and kind of watch out for it. It will say Town of Olive on the outside of the envelope. Do not discard important notice about electricity supply rates. So hopefully that'll help to get people's attention. But it shifts the choice of default source. You already have a default, and that currently is Central Hudson, which was selected many years ago for you by the state. This shifts that to the community level so that the elected officials can make the choice that's right for their own community. Reason to participate is the renewable electricity. As I mentioned, the community solar does not replace the source of your electricity supply for your household.
So the big
This-
selling point
this
is
does.
renewable energy.
The
That's it.
renewable
We've
energy,
had that for years. We've got ESCOs for decades.
okay, so let me,
Jewel different
okay.
than any other ESCO.
okay, so the question is, how is this different from an ESCO where you sign up as an individual household with a third-party supplier? So it's it's a good question. So there is very strong consumer protection, first of all. Sometimes people sign up at one rate with an ESCO, and then a few months later, they find themselves paying quite a bit more. This is a fixed rate. What you see is what you get. There's no changes within the program. It also has a major impact. So if you think about it, you're signed up, and maybe many of the people in the audience who took the time out to come tonight are signed up with some kind of ESCO. But it's usually a small minority of households in most communities that are signed up with an ESCO for renewable electricity supply. So that can change it from small minority. I believe the number I've read is less than 2% in the average community to can be 50%, 80% or more participating in this program. So it has a big impact as a climate action for a community. And then lastly, there's the stabilized rates and no contracts for consumers, no exit fees at any time. And, complete transparency. The rates, what you see is what you're going to get. No surprises. Yes.
Two parts to the same question.
Okay.
Earlier, I wanted to ask, is there a particular percentage of the town that needs to say they want to do this? The other part of that is how does a town board decide that the entire town, if that's it, is going to go this way?
Like how are they meet? Okay, the question was, how does? Yeah,
Is
okay,
there a
let me take the two
percentage?
questions separately. Okay, let me repeat your first question and then I'll get to the second question for the sake of people online. So the first question was, I'm sorry, repeat the first question.
Is there a percentage
okay,
of the town that
got
needs to say yes?
Okay, so I've said, the question is there a percentage of the households and the small businesses that needs to say yes? Does it affect, sort of hidden in your question is maybe a second question, does it affect the rate at all?
I
If
don't care about
a
the
lot
rate.
of people,
I
but-
just want to
okay.
know if,
the answer
how
is,
it's decided by the town.
okay, so I'm going to get to that. It's a little bit of a separate question. So the answer to the question about and the percentage of people, the number of people who opt out, is that it does not affect the rate in any way. The suppliers bid, they know the average, there's a range of average opt-outs in communities. They're very,
And what is that average?
it's anything from about 10% to about 40%, something like that. And they know that, they're aware of it, and when they give their bids, the suppliers have included that, they've baked that into their, so a safety, range for them. So it does not, once they're in the contract, that's it, the contract is a contract, and they're not going to, the rates will not change. Okay, the second question was, and Matt, I see your hand up, so I'll get to you next. The second question was, how does the town board decide whether or not to participate? I don't know. David, do you want to answer that question?
We actually.
Maybe talk loud so
Yeah,
people.
on Monday at our workshop, we will be discussing what rate we want to aim for. And we'll sign an MOA, memorandum of understanding, which will do, so they can go out and look for bids that meet the rate we're trying to hit. If we don't get that rate, we don't do the program. Pretty much. So if it's gonna be too much of an increase, it's not gonna happen.
So is it going to be less than that?
Peggy, isn't there? It would likely not be less than the
Requirement.
But it's
One second,
100%
let's just,
renewable.
105% of the.
let's just
Okay.
one conversation. Yeah,
It's more, if you do it individually, I almost guarantee that would be. If you go to an ESCO, because you don't have the whole point of this is aggregate buy.
Right.
So you
That's
don't have it as an
correct.
individual.
Right.
So if you want to go out and get 100% renewable, it almost certainly will be more than this bid.
So with Jewel, there's the option for the town to do 50% renewal. Or
Okay.
100%.
That's the other thing
Okay.
that we'll talk about. on
okay,
Monday.
I'm just trying to summarize what David Edinger just said. David Edinger, a board member, is here, and he was saying that they're going to be looking at it at a town board meeting. They'll be signing a memorandum of understanding, saying, here's our cap, here's our maximum, that we're willing to accept. And then, if we're not, the bids that come in exceed that, the town board will not sign. Okay, they still can decide not to sign even once they've,
We're in the
yeah,
community,
yeah,
how we could
okay.
go. Well, I guess, we'll make that decision once we actually get the bids.
so maybe it would be a good thing for me to go over this,
You
some,
had a hand
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Is
Matt
that-
was-
oh, that's true. Matt, did you still have a question?
Yes, I put my questions in the chat.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, let me stop sharing so that I can see your, your question in the chat. I apologize, I haven't been. Okay, there are 12 towns participating. Have they saved money during the contract? You were mentioning 50% versus 100%. What is Central Hudson's renewable rate currently?
You can
And-
just do one at a time.
Yeah, I'm going to. Okay, will we get one mailing from Jewel about opting out? Okay, so let me start with the last question first, which is the simplest. The question was, will we get one mailing from Jewel about opting out? And yes, that is correct. You will get one mailing. That will come once we know what the rates are. If, obviously, if the town decides to participate. You are mentioning renewables of 50% or 100%. What is Central Hudson's renewable rate currently? So I'm not quite sure. So Central Hudson themselves do not have a renewable rate. But perhaps you mean the Hudson Valley Community Power rate? Is that what you mean?
No, I thought Central Hudson's electricity had a portion of renewables.
Just pay.
So-
I think their
so the
renewable percentage is somewhere in the 10% range.
It's about 12%.
Right.
So currently, there is only one rate. It's what's called standard energy, and standard energy for Central Hudson is about 12%. Is about 12% from renewable energy. So you would be going from 12% to either 50%. I do want to explain that. Okay, and then I'm going to get to the question about have they saved money. So let me do next, because I have on the screen, I'm going to present again. And
Read the questions louder so we know what it is.
okay, okay. So I'm gonna right now. I'm going to talk about. Okay, so I just wanted, because there have been a number of questions we've sort of touched on, I keep saying I'm going to get back to it. So first I want to talk about what is 50% and 100%. I mentioned a number of times that the town could offer more than one renewable electricity supply option. So the question is, what's the difference between 50% New York State renewable electricity and 100% New York State renewable? So I'm going to read this screen to you. 50% New York State renewable option means that 50% of your electricity supply is matched by renewable energy certificates, or RECs, provided by New York State renewable power plants, hydropower, wind, or solar. The remaining 50% is matched by RECs sourced from other U.S. renewable electricity sources that are not tracked or verified by the New York State Department of Public Service. The 50% New York State renewable option is not counted as 100% renewable by New York State. The 100% New York State renewable option means that 100% of your electricity supply is matched by renewable energy certificates, or RECs, provided by New York State renewable power plants, hydropower, wind, or solar. Yes.
But we all know that solar, wind, hydro is not always functioning in an instantaneous basis. You're
Right.
still using the electricity. So Central Hudson is adding into that with their other conventional fossil fuel
So the
provided energy. So
so the energy is purchased ahead of time. So, and it's purchased ahead. You don't have to worry about running out of energy or out of renewable energy. It is purchased ahead of time in that initial contract.
I've had ESCOs in the past, and it's very disappointing because after they catch you for 3 or 4 months, you end up that you're paying more for your supply than you would have been paying to Central Hudson, which is kind of upsetting. And sometimes it's significant. So I've always gone back to Central Hudson. If Jewel is going to offer us a fixed price that looks appropriate, I'm sure I'll go. I would support that program, but I'm not sure that I understand quite the difference between an ESCO, which I can do any day of the week,
right.
or Jewel? Why can't I just do Jewel now, any day of the week? Why does the town need to be in the middle of it? Why
Well,
don't just-
keep in mind,
go-
I assume that you're doing it for okay, the question again was about what's the difference between this and purchasing your energy through an ESCO? So again, it's part of it is about the impact as a community. So this isn't just about you purchasing the renewable electricity. This is about your community. Obviously, many people will opt out. Costs are paramount for many people, but this is about a major impact as a community by switching to renewable electricity. Also, keep in mind that the rates are fixed for a set period of time. You can get contracts with renewable ESCOs, but it's, generally,
They're
so,
variable,
yeah,
but they're still renewable.
they're not always
But
variable.
some ESCOs do have that reputation about having a price where they call you in and then the prices increase.
Yes.
The difference is, one, this is bigger bulk buying, and two, the rates are guaranteed.
But, for instance, the fuel buying co-op has tens of thousands of participants.
Mhm.
As individuals, you sign up, they do not get the town boards or politics involved. And yet they get a lot of people involved, and they get a good price for those who sign up. So what this gentleman was saying, so by going through the town, we're just adding another layer. Why can't, if it's functioning as a cooperative,
Mhm,
to
mhm.
save money?
Mhm.
Because I don't see a difference from Jewel getting the town to support it as a bulk. Just seems flim flam to me. I mean, why don't you
It's
just
not,
let us?
our town is 15 other towns, right? 'Cause there's 3 new ones.
There are
Well,
3 new ones who are considering it,
Right.
yeah.
So up to 15 towns is a lot of buying power.
Right, but how many, in those 15 towns, how many people are signed up for the fuel buying co-op right now in those 15 towns? What's the percentage of people that are already part of the fuel buying co-op? Will be that much more with fuel or not? I don't know.
So,
So one of the
yes.
things that happens with the fuel buying co-op is they cap it. Some of them you have to be already in or know somebody who's in to get in. And
No,
they
that's
cap
not true.
it.
That's not true.
That is true.
No,
That's,
no,
I've been
no.
denied by one, so I can tell you that that
Really?
is in fact the case. You
Okay,
couldn't
then.
get in. Then you have to go find somebody else who's got one and you can get in. But it is a similar type of program. There are costs of running that program and going out and
Yes.
getting the people and getting all of them together and doing all this. This is trying to do it at the level of the town, not to add a layer of bureaucracy, but to get a layer of efficiency. Central Hudson is already making this decision for people all across the state. So the question is,
It's
does
only
the
the 10%
town?
renewable.
12%.
What they're doing.
Yeah, the discussion is about the difference between this and a fuel buyer group. Yeah. So I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that the difference is that instead of each individual having to do it, and some people benefiting because they learn about it and others missing out. And the cost of administration of a program that's done individual to individual, this is lumping it and letting the town board get all this information and make an initial decision. The town board will have to decide if they think everybody's gonna opt out, then they just won't do it because it'll be a waste of everybody's time. But if they think that a lot of people would really like this, if they didn't have to make their own individual choices, then the town board will vote to go ahead with it. I think it's just a question of how to, the state is trying to get more towns doing this.
Yes,
If you
that's a
try to
good
do
point.
it one person by one person, it's just gonna be a lot harder and
We've
more
got a lot of people,
expensive.
got tens of hundreds of thousands of people on ESCOs, so I don't buy that.
But
You can have
but
ESCO and this.
but the ESCO, many ESCOs, I don't know if it's most, but many ESCOs are with standard energy, they're with the least cost energy, which is not, that would be, they probably mirror the same mix of energy as Central Hudson. So they're not with the 50%,
So most
the definition. I'm sorry,
Most of this, because I look at it renewable.
most,
When you go out and you do the searches, they're a lot more expensive than Central Hudson, if we renewable. Green Mountain and all those kind of.
Yes, there's some that are renewable, but I mean, when I go to search for it, I also search for renewable, but there's also some that are standard. But
Some
yes,
include, natural gas as part of their renewable package.
But the escrows I've had in the past were renewable. And they
Okay.
fluctuated, so I like the idea of Juul with a fixed price for a
Okay.
period of time, that's more honest to
Okay.
me, because I always was
Okay.
disappointed with an escrow.
Depends
3
on-
months
Yeah.
later, I wasn't paying attention,
so,
or pay more money.
right. Yes, you do have to, you're on your own when you do it that way. So what you have, so so basically what you're arguing for is an opt-in program as opposed to an opt-out program. And you already have that. When you go out on the market, on the energy marketplace, to shop on your own for a contract, that's what's called an opt-in program. But again, you have much less leverage as an individual household. And another major difference, as Kathy was just explaining, is that the state is encouraging communities to participate in programs like this so that we can, remember I mentioned there was a slide earlier where I said that the state has set these very ambitious goals for renewable electricity, and that when you participate as a program, it has a major climate impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's 2,000 households in town of Olive, something like that. So that's a lot of buying power.
Well, why don't we negotiate with the other towns, 15 other towns? and-
Yes, you would be doing.
Jewel is doing that for us.
Now, how often do we have to renew the
Jewel is
contract?
doing the negotiation at the beginning of the contract.
Yes, you will be participating in the negotiation together with the other municipalities.
But we get a different rate than.
No.
No.
Everybody gets the same.
So-
Olive is going to be a little bit delayed. So there are 3 municipalities that are new municipalities that are coming into the program. It's very likely that they're discussing with, I don't want to answer that definitively, but they're asking for a blended rate that will include they're asking the suppliers in the RFP for a blended rate that will include the 3 new municipalities at the same rate as the those that are in the program right now. So I don't want to give a definitive.
Is beneficial.
I'm
right
sorry?
Now, for the 15 that are.
The 12 that are 12 that are in the
One
program.
of the 3 perhaps.
Yeah, one of the 3.
You're
would
one
come
of the
in
3
at-
new
those
ones.
3 of us would come in at a different rate than the other 12.
I think the RFP was put out the RFP was put out asking to give a blended rate that will include the 3 new municipalities at the same rate as the 12. They're not all coming in at the same time. The 3 new ones are coming in with a little bit of a delay. But they're asking to treat all of them the same. I think you had asked about the length of the contract. And when I say contract, keep in mind, it's a contract with a town, not with the individual household. And that will also come up in the negotiations, and the towns and villages and there's one city will be selecting by consensus the length, but it's pretty clear, and Jewel will make a recommendation. What I've seen from until now is that these programs have run on anything from a year to 3 years. And it seems to me, I can't say for sure, but it seems to me,
Get a different price than the other 12 towns.
We will, presumably.
You will or
We
won't?
should not. We should,
They're not be upfront, why don't they just tell what it's gonna be, so you make a decision?
Well, we
Sounds
don't,
like you don't know
the
it.
bids are not.
you will know. You-
The bids haven't come in yet. We don't know yet. But-
Nobody will make a decision until they know what the rate is from the bid.
There's other towns that are
supplier.
gonna do rates too. The 12 existing towns aren't locked into the rate that they're at right now. They're gonna
Correct.
get new rates with this bid. They'll get
Correct.
the same rate as they're getting.
Correct.
Okay, so it's a new period of
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
It's a new contract, yes.
So.
Are we in touch with all of those towns?
I'm sorry,
Correctly now.
Why don't we collude and say, hey, we're paying 3.8 cents?
can you repeat the
Jewel's doing
question?
all the negotiations for all the towns. Get
Yes,
The best rate they can.
yes. The rate is being negotiated together with the other municipalities, the new ones, and those who are already in the program.
Okay, so you're Jewel.
Yes,
And you're negotiated on our behalf. to get the energy for a
Yeah.
fixed price from the wind companies that are out in the central New York State or Tug Hill?
Hydropower, small hydropower, yes,
Hydro too.
yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so you're our negotiator.
Not me personally, but
Well.
yes, yes.
They have the incentive to get the best price for the town because that'll be more likely that the town will get the contract and that large numbers of people will stay opted in.
Correct,
If they, you know, don't take good care and they come back with a high bid, the town could say no. Or the town says yes, but then large numbers of people opt out. They get paid per person that stays in. That
per household,
per
yeah,
household.
yeah,
per-
yeah.
So.
Yes, so the question that with the answer that was just being given from a legislator in the audience is that yes, that Jewel has an incentive to negotiate for the lowest price. And yes, of course they do. We want the communities to, when you win, we win. Let's put it
The
that way.
more people that join, the more money you get.
Yes, that's true, but we're thinking long term. It's not just that we're gonna make more money, but we want this program to prosper and thrive and for the communities to want to continue with it. Yes,
So you're saying a lot
Yeah.
of your program is from hydropower,
Mhm.
yes? More than wind and solar. What if we have droughts? You know, droughts,
Mhm.
hydropower is not working on the Mississippi, it's on many places anymore because of drought conditions.
Mhm.
And if we're relying just on hydropower, that seems dicey. Why not solar
Okay.
and wind?
So again, I'm not the person, I don't head up procurement, that question is really for Glenn Weinberg, you know, for the person that who will be speaking to the board on the 10th. But the question was, what about drought and hydropower? Again, the energy and the RECs are purchased ahead of time. There's also a mix in there of wind energy. Why not solar? My understanding is that there is not at this time a lot of utility scale solar projects. There's a lot of community solar, more being constructed all the time, but there are not the large, I'm not saying there are none, but there are not sufficient utility scale solar projects to base the CCA on that. Maybe eventually.
There's a
they will.
shortage of big solar projects. There's not that many.
Don't we, like when I signed up, and this gentleman, I don't know, for getting renewables through now that, through my Central Hudson, I thought it was through large solar farms that part of that energy was coming from. There are large solar farms that are available.
So I think you're asking about community solar. So they look large to us. Yes, they are, I'm not saying that they're not big, but they're not, but yeah, they're large-ish. They're not as big as would be needed to supply the energy for 15 communities, let's say.
As an example, the big solar project you might see alongside the thruway down by.
There's one by Harriman, right by,
Harriman,
right by
okay,
the interchange.
That's equivalent to one big wind turbine.
Uh-huh.
That whole gigantic field is one big wind turbine.
If the wind is blowing. Now,
Oh,
how far away are our hydro, where are our hydro coming from? Is it coming, where are the hydro plants that will be getting energy?
I think
from?
they're mostly in the Adirondacks.
Yeah,
Are there?
I don't know exactly as possible. They are from, so you, Glenn,
But
okay.
mostly in the.
Okay, I know there's what's called run of river projects. There's smaller projects. And apparently Glenn Weinberg said that they're.
Are they big
mostly-
enough?
Yes,
Oh,
you don't have to worry about them being
Jules-
sufficient.
Jules taking care of that for us.
Yeah,
And
you don't have
I
to worry
supply
about that.
it.
Yeah, yeah. And you're not going to run out of energy. So Matt had asked a question about savings, and I think some of you asked that too. So I think this gentleman over here also asked about the current savings in the program. So this is the historic CCA rate for the Hudson Valley Community Power Program versus Central Hudson, going from 2019 to 2024, okay? So the Hudson Valley Community Power programs are finishing their third round in this program. And this graph compares all three rounds in the program with a brief gap in the middle. So through most of the program, there were two rates available. One was for standard energy, which mirrors the same mix of energy as the utility, that 12% renewable energy. So this is in the past programs, and one was for 100% renewable energy. The red zigzag line represents, and in this last round, 50% was also offered. So the red zigzag line represents the utility rate, which is variable, right? The green dashed line represents the 100% renewable electricity. The yellow, the dotted line, the blue dotted line is for the standard energy. The yellow line is for the 50%, is for the 50% renewable energy. So as you can see in the first contract, obviously to the left on the screen, in the first contract, that was from July 2019 through June 2021. There were a number of months where the CCA rate was less than the utility, but overall, Central Hudson rates were slightly less expensive. The second contract was from July 2021 through July 2022. There were significant savings to participants in the program.
Why the gap?
I think there was a gap in the, I believe there was a gap in the program. Like sometimes there's a few months where it's between contracts. Okay. Like for example, the Rockland Community Power Program is about to restart in May. So there was a gap from, trying to remember, October until May, and then it's going to restart. The current contract started in July of 2023 and will run through the end of June 2025. That's the current contract that's
And
in
how much
place.
is that saving?
So you can see on the,
I can't see dotted lines in those.
well, you can see the red line is below. It says, at this point in time, participants have paid more within the program than the utility rate. But keep in mind that to some extent, it's an apples and oranges comparison because people in the program have been paying, what they've been purchasing is renewable electricity, either, most people in the program, either 100% renewable or 50% renewable. I also want to mention that this is, so the difference between the average difference for the previous two contracts, the average difference between the CCA and Central Hudson rate was 2% for the 100% renewable rate. But that's in the previous two contracts. It was higher this time. But there's also an important flaw in simply looking at the rate comparison average as it assumes an equal amount of usage every month. So as David was explaining earlier, your electricity usage tends to be higher in the summer and the winter. Utility rates tend to be lower in what's called the shoulder seasons in the fall and the spring, which is also when we all tend to use less electricity. If you look at some of the previous contracts, the CCA rate was lower than the utility during the months of highest usage. And that's when the savings can accrue very quickly. So if you're using your electricity during the summer, and if the rate from the Central Hudson is higher, that can accrue those savings can accrue very quickly because your rate in the program is going to just stay flat. You're using more electricity. Your bill will go up because your usage goes up, but the rate is going to stay flat. again, there's no guarantee on what utility rates are going to be because we don't know ahead of time, but that's when the savings tend to accrue when when the utility rates being higher coincide with the periods of highest usage. Yes.
It's something that I've considered before, back when I was having trouble with the ESCO, it would be helpful if such a graph was legislated that required Central Hudson to provide such a graph so the customers can make well-informed decisions.
They have it on the site, they have it's not a graph, it actually just gives you the actual rates.
What-
last
where is
year. On the Central Hudson site.
Okay, so I have it on the site, it's not on my bill.
Right,
And I
they'll give you your usage for the last year, but they won't give you the rate for the last year.
Inform us so we can make smart
Yeah,
choices.
well, I'd like that, the legislation to do such a thing.
It is actually on my NICEAG bill, I think. And so it's a good point. I work at the county level, but we can take that to our state legislators and ask for that. Because it's good that they put it on a website, but can everybody find it and
We
understand
can
it?
better-
I like it. that it comes-
Work with your power authority, and then we can actually have them directly put it on the bill, because
Mhm. Yes. that's a good
it owns it.
But just to go back, the fixed CCA rate can help avoid peak rates when your energy, at the periods when your energy use also peaks. That's where you will see the cost savings. Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna repeat that.
Well,
The
I
f-
understand lost, because maybe I'm hard of hearing, but I'm really having a hard time hearing you say, you've lost me.
Okay, maybe I'm trying, maybe you also
I
want to
know you
move up
know.
a couple of rows, but the fixed CCA rate, just to kind of sum up that discussion, the fixed CCA rates can help avoid the peak rates in periods when your energy use also peaks. Okay, and that's where you'll see cost savings. That's where the cost savings can mount up. Were you able to hear that? Okay, are there more questions online? Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I've been in the energy business for about 30 years, with alternate energy, wind turbine, solar, hydro.
Okay.
And I would just like to point out that with the concept of net metering, which we've had federally and in the state for decades. The top half of your bill is delivered, that's 2/3 your bill. The bottom half is 1/3 of your bill, that's the supply. These programs, ESCOs, Joule, they're offsetting the supply, that's good. But if you have solar panels at your house, you have a wind turbine at your house, that's offsetting 3/3 of your bill. Not just 1/3.
Right.
Yeah. You have solar, you have-
If you have enough sun.
I'm sorry?
I said, if you have enough sun and you don't live.
Well, no, it balances out. You're using energy at night, yeah, you're buying it from the utility company, but you're generating electricity with your solar, wind, your hydro, on your own property. Through your backfeeding your meter, it's counting as a credit. It doesn't matter when you use that credit. It can be coming at night, it can be coming on a cloudy day or quiet, non-windy day. You're still getting the credit because the generation facility is producing 30,000 kilowatt hours a year. And that's what you're offsetting, 30,000 kilowatt hours a year of your supply as well as your delivery as well as the
Yeah.
supply.
Really, like me, lives in the forest and we have basically trees that actually get solar.
Right, so we
So
can.
unless we're gonna clear a bunch of trees. it's,
Okay.
So the discussion,
I'm just saying, one side is
Great.
3 times as valuable as buying through one of these programs.
Yeah.
It's a good public service announcement.
so the discussion is about, but you know,
If you
you're,
have on-site generation that you own, and it's
the best.
backfeeding your meter, it's offsetting the 2/3, which is your delivery, and the 1/3, which is your supply.
And then you don't need to.
well, this
Well, you
is
still have to
for,
declare
yeah,
your energy supply vendor, which could still be Joule.
And
Because
would
it's
they-
always,
Would they
This-
further save you any money? Would they further save you any money with all your own solar and wind and all of that on your own?
you'll still, if you're end up with I use, let's say, 3,000 kilowatt hours a month, let's say. And my generator, my wind turbine's providing 2,000 kilowatt hours a month, doesn't matter what time of day. because it's backfeeding the meter. When I've got a surplus, that's a credit that the utility gives back to you as you need it at night on a quiet day.
So,
But you still need to have a vendor for your supply, which could be Jewel. And they'll make up the difference for whatever balance the net
Correct.
is on your bill.
so you're bringing up an important point, though. The discussion was about that if you have solar or wind on your own property that you're drawing from, it does also, if it does lower your delivery costs, and this will not impact your delivery costs at rent. But the other point that you brought up, which is, or you touched on, that's important, is that that whatever cost difference you see either direction is only going to impact the supply portion of your bill, not the delivery portion of your bill. So whatever difference there is in your bill, whether it's up or down, is only going to be that supply portion. Which is
We said at the very beginning, we just circled right back. Delivery charges are not affected by this, and
Correct.
Hudson that's a big portion of.
That's
our-
between you and
But if
Central.
you generate it on site, you're reducing your delivery consumption, and that's the.
That's independent of this program.
Right,
It's just a
right,
whole nother-
right.
The woman in the middle of the room, you had a question?
Yes,
Right here.
okay.
So I purchase, I lock into a certain price
Mhm.
in May.
Mhm.
And, if the price, which is what happened, the price of, and I estimate so many gallons, right? The price of oil went down.
Mhm.
So they don't give any break on that.
Mm.
That's
So-
what it is.
They do have a
Yes,
third
they do.
flavor of
It
that
depends on
program
which
where you do get a
program.
downside protection.
Yeah, it all depends.
Go to look
That's the
on it.
problem going out independently is you're trying to.
So finish your question.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So, if the price, for instance, they're gonna lock into a certain amount of time. We're gonna lock in,
Right.
is for some reason, the price, let's say there's less, community, there's less use of the solar, this is what I'm concerned about. People will think, oh, it's gonna be cheaper for me, so I'm gonna use more electricity. It is, if the price goes down of the solar, we don't, the cost goes down, we benefit from that the next time, say lock in.
So the question was, if the price goes down, if the price on the energy market goes down, will you benefit will the price in the program go
Yes.
down? The energy is pre-purchased,
Yes.
okay? So that it is what it is for that period of time. Let's say it's for a year. Jewel tries to advise to choose the right time frame so that you're not locked into something beyond what they feel they can forecast, what they see, they can project. But no, so the rate will not go up and it will not go down.
So I guess.
But you also don't, you're also
Correct.
protected from unexpected.
I guess I'm
There was one period in which, 1 month in which Central Hudson went up to 22 point something cents per kilowatt hour. You won't have that either.
So I suppose my concern is that this will not be as effective if people who are in the program aren't conserving electricity, period, because if there's less demand, you're gonna have a lower price.
No, it doesn't. So the question is, if there's less demand, there's less usage of electricity in the town, will the rates be higher? Oh, I think you're thinking of, the decoupling, like, for example, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but with water, and I'm pretty sure that's the same with electricity. If the community uses more electricity, the rate goes, it affects the rate. Right, but I know for water, for example, if people are using less water, the rate actually goes up. It's a variable rate. Is it a variable rate with water? I'm trying to think about this. It stays the same. Let me just say that this rate stays the same, no matter how much the usage is, the demand is, it's going to stay the same
Contracted
for the supply,
Correct, for the
in the
contracted
program.
period.
You're going back to that graph, you're protected from that enormous red peak.
Yeah,
Right,
Where Central
yeah,
Hudson went screaming high for a while, few months.
And,
But you
and
also don't benefit from the lows. Now, it was,
Right.
when it was 6 cents,
Right.
6 cents in October, it's back to 9 cents now, so it
The-
really changes a lot.
the reason to participate in the program is the renewable electricity, the stable rates, the impact as a community.
my concern is that, this is just in general, period, okay? As Americans, we consume far more electricity than they do, for instance, in Europe,
Mhm.
right? So, because we are wasteful. I mean, so, you know, my daughter and my son-in-law live in the Netherlands. And I didn't know a lot of the things that he taught me, like to conserve electricity.
Okay,
And they're very simple. But we had no idea. So we are very, very wasteful. And my concern is, if we do this program, is everybody gonna get, are we gonna get a lesson on how to save electricity?
That's a whole nother program.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I
so the-
get that,
But
would
Derek can
you-
speak to,
well, yeah, I just,
But
Would Jules do like a presentation? Because I'm not
Uh-huh.
gonna, I can't afford to pay more money.
Well, Central Hudson does that already, they send out a little brochure and so down, say
But
electricity.
it's not, it doesn't even compare.
so the question, I just want to repeat a little bit of the comment, for the person who's still online. And that is just that we tend to be very wasteful. We could be doing a lot more to conserve energy. There's also energy efficiency. That is separate. This is about the source of the electricity supply that you are using, but absolutely. I completely agree with you. We should all be doing what we can to conserve, and maybe Dan can.
Here to make most of.
But, well, wait a minute. Listen, share it is, well, that might, I'm wondering if that will happen. You know, I know that Central Hudson does their little program, and they didn't used to do that. Like before.
they're required to.
So, they're still required to. So will Jewel be doing like, you know, you go to the website and you can learn something how to save?
So the question is whether Jewel will be doing education around conservation and efficiency, like how you can be more, very often you can look for appliances that are more efficient, like if you have to replace something, you know, a dehumidifier, anyway. My heart is definitely with that.
Yeah.
I can't, I can't speak.
Yeah,
So,
as a
maybe,
member of the Olive Conservation Advisory Council, I'm taking your question, and this could be a program for us, you know.
So we did one 4 years ago.
Right,
When I was on the CAC.
Right.
Both efficiency, there's some RUPCO programs and some other programs to do it for free if you below certain income levels, and we had presentations at the library to do all that stuff you're talking about.
right. So both using less, and actually, what we learned from our research is that the biggest waste is an uninsulated home or an underinsulated home. That whether it's electricity or propane or oil or that most of your waste sifts through your walls and windows. But maybe it's time for the CAC to do another energy conservation program. With what's available now, because what's available now is actually different from what was available 4 years ago.
Do we know how many households in Olive are completely electric? And how many use fuel oil or propane?
No idea.
Because if you are all electric, then this will protect you even more, right? Because that's your cost. If you still are using other fuel sources, then you have to handle that a different way. But I think for this, you pay more each month if you use more electricity. So if you want to save money, you use less electricity, and you can use less electricity by changing your insulation and all of that. I 100% support, but you can also unplug appliances when they're not being used, and you can use energy efficient. So I love the question, and I think that if, while everybody's thinking about energy use, the Conservation Advisory Committee would bring some more education on that, that would be fantastic. I
I,
save $20 a month on my electricity charges. And I try to use mostly electricity in my home by unplugging things when I'm not using them.
yeah, and I was,
Unplugging your TV and unplugging your
Do you have Central
computer.
Hudson?
I have NICEAG,
Nice.
so it's not
So-
exactly
So
comparable.
it's
Where do you live?
economical.
$20 a
No,
month.
where do you live? Nice thing.
Oh, in Shandaken.
By the Emerson.
I
So
just,
you have a different electrical.
Yeah.
And
so I
that's
just
what-
want to, I just want to point out what, I'm sure she has different rates, but it's the same basic principle. It is a great question. It's a very important question. I just want to point out that the insulation is going to affect your gas bill if you're getting heat. Most people still get their heating from gas or what, oil or propane. But so just to distinguish, that's, now you're talking about heating. The movement in New York State is to get more people onto electricity, and then to make the source of that electricity renewable. But absolutely, energy efficiency, more efficient appliances, unplugging, all of these things,
If everybody went to
Yeah.
heat pumps right now,
right?
you gotta look at the balance of BTU hours that are coming from oil or gas.
Mhm.
That's the equivalent to kilowatt hours that are coming from electricity. And if everybody all of a sudden just got rid of their BT hours of liquid fuel and substituted for kilowatt hours of heat pump electricity, we'd collapse the system. There's not enough electricity to offset all of the BTU hours of
Everyone's doing this
fossil
at
fuel
once.
being used right now. It's impossible to do.
But that's
We need more.
counterfactual because it will happen gradually.
We hope so. I
Yeah.
predict that.
Yeah,
But if we go that route, you get cleaner, cooler, warmer, cleaner, greener.
But we've got to
Nicer
come up
is-
with.
Increase demand and increase supply together, they go up.
Am I correct, Sharon, in saying that our grid is in the east coast, the east of the country is completely inadequate to go towards.
Entirely electric, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Even half increase that when we were looking at, when CAC was looking at possible solar sites in town to add to the supply. Central Hudson said, no, we don't have phase 3 lines anywhere past the reservoir. It sort of ends at the fountain. So Central Hudson can't accommodate any increased supply in town
Yeah,
because the lines aren't there.
yeah, any alternative energy project, whether it's wind or hydro or solar, if they're adding it to the system, they need to get approval with the PSC. And the utility companies to make sure that the utility companies' power lines can accommodate that extra energy that's going in.
It's a color that has the one, they could handle.
I don't know about that.
I thought this,
Unless you have a battery.
I thought that,
Sunset's like 3:30.
I thought the slide that's up here now.
Let's go
Right.
back to the main conversation.
Yeah, I thought the slide this is somewhat relevant to the conversation that we're having right now. So this is the current state. Remember I said earlier on, I showed a slide where I said the goal was to get to 70% renewable electricity by 2030. And we all know how that's less than 5 years away. So this is where we are right now at 29% for what's operating in New York State. Okay, so in the pipeline is 53% renewable electricity, but we're not there yet. Right,
Pipeline is
oh,
solar, wind, hydro under construction or under contract.
So we're not gonna get any more hydro. That's just off the table. Right, nobody's gonna be putting in dams anymore.
Right.
Right.
yeah, this is from all from currently existing dams, any hydropower in this program. So I just thought this might be of interest to people to see
Yeah.
how far we are from
What's coming up in the future?
what
is the
type, what,
future? Is it like 10 years from now?
well, the goal is to get to 70%. Yeah,
Yeah, well, right
Yeah.
now, the county environmental commission is working with the towns to try to, find locations for solar farms. Even though Central Hudson can't accommodate that right now, but then the county will say, here are these potential solar farms, and they'll pressure the Public Service Commission to pressure Central Hudson to spend millions and millions of dollars to build out the grid. Right now, the grid is inadequate.
And solar farms have subsidize that as well, as part of their cost of connection.
Yeah, it's like $1 million a mile for, the power line.
It's so expensive than getting cable TV.
Yeah, we were looking at doing something maybe at the transfer station. And it's like 2 miles from the nearest state substation. So,
$1 million a mile?
yeah.
Well, that's, the government has to do this.
So I want to put this slide up
So-
to show you, to give you the contact information. I want to give everybody the contact information for the program. In case when you leave here, you think of more questions. Here's the information.
Thank you.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is the
I appreciate it.
liveliest and most interesting questions we've gotten.
No, you have great questions. You
thank you.
really do. Yeah. Obviously, very knowledgeable audience and great questions. And thank you very much.